Imagine this. It's past midnight. You are sitting alone in a dark bunker, staring at a glowing screen. Suddenly, a siren tears through the silence. Red letters flash across the wall. Launch. The computer tells you, says with full certainty, that the United States has just fired nuclear missiles at your country. You have minutes to decide. If you report this up the chain of command, your nation will fire back. Hundreds of millions of people will die. But if you do nothing, and you are wrong, your country is gone. This is not a movie. This happened on September 26, 1983. And the man who made that decision is almost certainly someone you have never heard of. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand the world of 1983. The Cold War was not cold at all, it was burning. President Ronald Reagan had just called the Soviet Union an evil empire. The Soviet leader Yuri Andropov was convinced the Americans were planning a first strike. Both sides had thousands of nuclear warheads pointed at each other, ready to launch within minutes. Then, just 3 weeks before our story takes place, Soviet military jets shot down a South Korean passenger plane, Korean Airlines Flight 007, killing all 269 people on board, including a U.S. congressman. The world was furious. Relations between the two superpowers had reached their lowest point since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Both sides were on what experts call hair trigger alert. One wrong move, and it was over. Stanislav Petrov was born in 1939 near Vladivostok, in the far east of the Soviet Union. His father had flown fighter planes in World War II. Stanislav followed a military path, studying at the Kiev Military Aviation Engineering Academy and eventually joining the Soviet Air Defense Forces. By 1983, he had risen to the rank of lieutenant colonel. His job was to monitor the Soviet Union's early warning satellite system, a top-secret network of satellites, code-named OKO, meaning eye. Petrov was not a typical soldier. Unlike most of his colleagues, he had a civilian engineering background. He was a thinker, a skeptic, a man who trusted logic over panic. That difference, as we will see, mattered more than anyone could have imagined. On the night of September 26, 1983, Petrov was filling in for a sick colleague at the Serpukhov 15 Command Center, a secret facility about 60 kilometers south of Moscow. It was shortly after midnight when everything changed. The alarm system screamed. The main screen lit up with a single terrifying word: launch. The computer was reporting that one intercontinental ballistic missile had been fired from the United States, heading directly for the Soviet Union. The system declared the reliability of the information was at its highest level. Then, moments later, the screen updated. Not one missile, 5. Every protocol Petrov had been trained to follow said the same thing: report this immediately to his superiors. If he did, the Soviet military would almost certainly launch a counterattack. There was no time for debate, no time for committees. The decision was, in that moment, his alone. Petrov did not report the attack. Instead, he waited. He later described the next 23 minutes as the longest of his life. His reasoning was this: he had been trained that a real American nuclear strike would involve hundreds of missiles, not 5. 5 missiles made no strategic sense. He also knew the satellite system was new and not yet fully trusted. The ground radar, which would normally confirm an incoming missile, showed nothing. Something, he felt, was wrong. "I had a feeling in my gut," he said years later. "I felt that I was right, but I wasn't sure." He picked up the phone and reported to his commander, not a missile attack, but a system malfunction. 23 minutes later, no missiles had arrived. Petrov was right. The system had malfunctioned. A rare alignment of sunlight reflecting off high-altitude clouds had fooled the Soviet satellite into thinking missiles had been launched from American bases in Montana. You might expect that Stanislav Petrov was celebrated as a hero. He was not. In the days that followed, he was kept in the bunker for 3 days, while Soviet investigators examined what had happened. He was eventually reprimanded, not for what he decided, but for failing to properly fill out his logbook during the incident. The Soviet military was embarrassed that their system had failed so catastrophically. The story was buried. Petrov was quietly moved to a less important position and eventually retired from the military in 1984. He went home to a small apartment outside Moscow. He cared for his wife, Raisa, who later died of cancer in 1997. For years, he told almost no one what he had done. His own wife did not know for 10 years. "What did you do?" she asked when she finally found out. "Nothing," he told her. "I did nothing." The world only learned about Petrov's decision after the Soviet Union collapsed, when classified documents began to surface in the 1990s. Slowly, the story spread. In January 2006, he received the World Citizen Award from the Association of World Citizens, presented to him at the United Nations headquarters in New York. In 2013, he was awarded the Dresden Peace Prize, 25,000 euros, in Germany. A documentary about him called The Man Who Saved the World was released in 2015, featuring Kevin Costner. Former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said of him, "It is hard to imagine anything more devastating for humanity than all-out nuclear war. Yet this might have occurred by accident on September 26, 1983, were it not for the wise decisions of Stanislav Petrov." Petrov himself never considered himself a hero. "I was just doing my job," he said, "but they were lucky it was me on shift that night." Stanislav Petrov died on May 19, 2017, at the age of 77, in his apartment near Moscow. The world barely noticed. Think about that for a moment. The man who may have saved every person alive on this planet today, every person you have ever loved, every city you have ever visited, every book you have ever read, died quietly, alone, largely unknown. History remembers the generals and the presidents, the men who gave orders and signed treaties. But sometimes, just sometimes, history turns on a single person sitting alone in a dark room, trusting their gut when every alarm in the world is screaming at them to do otherwise. If this story moved you, consider sharing it, because the least we can do for the man who did nothing is make sure the world knows his name. Subscribe for more untold stories of the people who changed history without anyone noticing.